Due to the fact that human nature is a complex tapestry that is frequently woven with threads of impulses and emotions, people are compelled to participate in activities that are both appropriate and inappropriate. This is because of the fact that human nature is a complex tapestry. Because of this, individuals participate in activities that are appropriate as well as those that are not appropriate. As a consequence of this, individuals engage in actions that constitute proper conduct as well as behaviors that do not constitute appropriate behavior. The consequence of this is as follows. As a result of the fact that many aspects of human nature are intricately intertwined with one another, this is something that takes place. On the other hand, this is something that takes place. People are defined by a large amount of complexity, which is something that is inherent to the very fundamental nature of their existence. These people are defined by the fact that they are complex. The story of Michael Redlick, a former NBA executive whose life was tragically cut short on January 12, 2019, is being woven into this complex network. Redlick's life was cut dramatically short. On January 12, 2016, Redlick's life was cut tragically short. The life of Redlick was cut short in a manner that was both sudden and untimely. The passing of Redlick on January 12, 2016 was a tragic event that brought an abrupt end to his life. In a manner that was both unexpected and untimely from the very beginning, Redlick's life was tragically cut short in a predetermined manner. For the reason why Redlick's life came to an abrupt end on the day in question, which was the cause of the circumstance was brought about by the fact that the situation was brought about. The tragic event that took place led to the early death of Redlick in a manner that was not planned. This was the result of the unfortunate incidents that took place. This event caused a great deal of destruction. This investigation's objective is to identify the factors that are accountable for the existing connections between love, violence, and despair in the world today. The inquiry will also look into the ways in which these three feelings are connected to one another and how they are connected to one another. This inquiry is being conducted with the intention of achieving this understanding in order to acquire a more in-depth comprehension of the complexities that are associated with human behavior. It is the purpose of the investigation to achieve this level of comprehension. Michael Redlick and Danielle's lives gradually came into contact with one another over the course of time, initially as friends and then, as time progressed, developing into a genuine familial connection. This occurred gradually over the course of time. The progression of this occurred gradually over the course of their careers. This occurred over the course of their careers. Their lives eventually came into contact with one another as a result of the culmination of everything that had taken place since the beginning of time. This event took place at some point in time during the course of their lives, but it did not take place until it was finally realized that it had taken place. It was not until then that it was finally realized that it had taken place. However, the fact that their connection was initially pleasant does not change the fact that it was a witness to the gradual collapse of stability that occurred as a result of the increasing difficulties that they were grappling with at the time. There is no way to alter the fact that this is the case. Nevertheless, this is a fact that cannot be changed in any fashion, shapes, or forms. Because it is already in existence, it is not possible to make any changes to something of this nature because it is already in existence. There was indications that the Redlick home was not immune to unhappiness, despite appearances to the contrary. This evidence was offered by the fact that disagreements were boiling beneath the surface of the household. As a result of the fact that arguments were taking place, this was demonstrated to be the case. This was proved in a number of ways, one of which was by the fact that the intensity of the confrontations was continually increasing and getting more intense. Michael continued to pursue a profession that was highly demanding, and as time went on, the stress that he caused for his family got more visible. Michael's job was extremely demanding. The fact that Michael continued to pursue the profession was directly responsible for this outcome. However, in addition to this, he had a difficult time controlling his drinking, which added an additional degree of complexity to the tension that was already existing in the predicament that the situation was already in. The fact that he struggled to maintain control over his drinking was another aspect of his conduct that was difficult to anticipate. He had a hard time keeping his drinking under control. There were significant turning points in the history of the Redlick family that took place during the course of their relocations on multiple occasions. These occurrences occurred throughout the course of their history. These occurrences took place within the course of their relocation responsibilities. These notable moments throughout the course of the family's history made a significant contribution to the family's overall history. Because of the amazing occurrences that took place during the migrations that this family went through, the history of the Redlick family was significantly altered as a result of the experience of the repeated migrations that this family went through. Every excursion was accompanied by its own unique set of difficulties and upheavals that were specifically associated with that particular travel. During the time when they were moving from Ohio to California, it was a reflection of the upheaval that was going place within their relationship, and the journey that they traveled was riddled with uncertainty. Additionally, the journey itself was riddled with uncertainty during the entirety of its duration, which was a significant limitation. Because it was obvious that they were living together, the fact that this particular incident had occurred was evidence that they were living together. This was the case because it was plain that they were living together. Throughout the course of the struggle, the home of the Redlick family was transformed into a battlefield, where the two opposing groups engaged in a series of escalating conflicts with each other. There were instances of verbal and physical abuse that took place across the entirety of the house. These incidents occurred in separate locations. There was a pretty widespread occurrence of these kinds of incidents. His violent behavior, which was made worse by the amount of alcohol he ingested, caused a fog to drift over their home, which had been tranquil up until that moment. His behavior was made worse by the fact that you were drinking alcohol. It was due of his aggressive behavior that this fog was spread over their neighborhood. Due to the fact that he was under the influence of alcohol, his abusive behavior became significantly more harsh overall. Before that point in time, the house in which they lived had been a place that was calm and peaceful to be in. This wasn't the case anymore. Danielle made an effort to find some peace and tranquility within the chaos, despite the fact that she was struggling under the weight of her husband's explosive behavior. Despite the fact that she was struggling with the weight of it, she did her best to find some peace and serenity. It was not the fact that she was working beneath them that prevented her from carrying out this deed. Even though she was under a significant deal of pressure to complete this task, she was nevertheless able to achieve it. She was successful in doing so. Although she was in the midst of the confusion that was occurring around her, she made an effort to think about the past and figure out who she was. She did this despite the fact that she was facing the chaos. It turned out that the fleeting moments of serenity that she enjoyed as a result of her efforts to regulate the high seas of their relationship turned out to be transitory little moments of comfort. This was the case since the waves of their relationship were so turbulent. She continued to be overpowered by the storm, which was the reason for this. They were at the center of the storm because of the nature of the bond that they shared by nature. During that precise instant, it seemed as though the dreadful storm had fully consumed her. There were a few instances in which she made an effort to navigate her way through the choppy waves by making use of her efforts. She ultimately succeeded in doing so. They were present at the final contact, which took place on the evening of January 12, 2019, and it was surrounded by sorrowful circumstances. They were present for the encounter. They were present, which is the reason why the confrontation took place. On the 12th of January, the date of the meeting as well as the hour that it would take place were both specified. When this horrific tragedy happened, the encounter that took place in the midst of the hubbub took place on the same evening that it took place. It was at that precise moment that an irreparable split tore through the fabric of the Redlick family, leaving behind a trail of destruction and questions that have not been answered. At some point in time, the emotions reached a point where they were about to explode, and at that very moment, a catastrophic break occurred that could not be repaired. The occurrence of this truly occurred happened at the same moment. These charges, which went beyond the notion that Michael must have suffered a simple heart attack, prompted concerns to be raised as a result of the situation. In the beginning, there were rumors that Michael had passed away, and these claims produced a great deal of fear among a lot of people. The initial hypotheses were that Michael had been able to pass away without any complications. It is important to remember that this was not checked for accuracy. There have been a number of concerns raised over the passing of Michael, which has been the subject of a number of different concerns. During the course of the investigation that law enforcement was carrying out at the time, it became the primary focus of the investigation because of the injustices and unaddressed problems that were present in the region where the investigation was being carried out while it was being carried out. The mystery that surrounds Michael's death could not have been any more complicated than it already was. There is no way that this could have happened. It seems inconceivable that it could have been any more difficult than it already was. It is specifically because Danielle has provided a plethora of explanations surrounding the events that took place on that terrible evening. This is the reason why this is the case. Given that this was the situation, it was unimaginable that the mystery could have been much more complicated than it already was given the conditions. Given the circumstances, it was already somewhat complicated. A chaotic fight against the family was constructed as a result of the discovery of evidence at the location, which shattered the illusion of a quiet household. This led to the production of an image that indicated a domestic conflict. This was done in order to create a picture that would give the impression that the family was the sole target of the conflict. This proof was ultimately discovered as a result of a violent assault that was committed against the family. The assault was carried out on the family. The evidence that was supplied was utilized in the creation of a painting, which was the result of the proof that was presented. Throughout the course of the court hearings, the prosecution of the defendant presented a case that was buried in claims of premeditation and tampering with evidence. This case was complicated by allegations of both of these things. The defendant was also accused of tampering with evidence, which was one of the claims that were made against them. The prosecution, who were acting as the legal representatives for the case, discussed the matter as they were providing the presentation that they were giving. The defense made an attempt to spread the information in order to express the facts surrounding the horrible reality of Danielle's state, which was described as being marked by abuse and hopelessness. In addition, the defense made an effort to convey the information. Regarding the prosecution, on the other hand, they did not make any attempt of this type. As a consequence of this, the defense was able to successfully accomplish this objective as a direct result of the efforts that they put forth. Following the revelation of the verdict at the conclusion of the trial, both parties were left in a state of frantic struggle to come to grips with the ramifications that would manifest themselves as a result of the decision that had been taken. When the gavel was brought down toward the end of the hearings where the processes were taking place, the sentencing procedure cast a shadow over the proceedings due to the fact that it was taking place at that time. This was because the sentencing procedure was taking place at that period in time. The happenings that were taking place were shrouded in a mist of uncertainty. It was an indication that one of the chapters in the story had reached its conclusion, but it was also a sign that it was pointing towards the boundaries of accountability that had not yet been investigated. Both of these things were signs that the story pointed towards. At the same time, both of these statements were accurate occurrences. According to the verdict that was handed down in the case of Michael Redlick's death, there are questions that have been raised regarding the complexity of justice and the interpretation of evidence. These problems have been discussed in relation to the verdict. Several discussions have taken place regarding these issues in respect to the verdict. There have been other conversations that have taken place in relation to these problems concerning the ruling. In respect to these issues affecting the verdict, There have been other conversations that have taken place. These conversations have taken place. With regard to these matters that have an impact on the verdict, there have been other exchanges that have taken place. These conversations have taken place. With regard to these matters that have an impact on the verdict, there have been other exchanges that have taken place. These conversations have taken place. The other side of the argument is that there are a significant number of people who will argue that the ruling does not completely take into account all of the complications that are associated with the issue. This is the other side of the debate. Nevertheless, there is a possibility that there will be circumstances in which someone will cast doubt on whether or not the outcome was fair. This is something that is a possibility that can be considered. There is a significant probability that the verdict that the jury reached was significantly influenced by a wide range of diverse factors that were taken into consideration. This is a possibility that is worthy of serious consideration. This is a possibility that was under consideration and taken into account. Something that is a possibility is the existence of a significant potential. There are a lot of different aspects of Danielle's presentation that need to be taken into consideration, and one of those aspects is the emotional resonance that she is presenting. There are a number of additional aspects to take into consideration, including the presentation of the facts, the testimony of witnesses, and the emotional resonance of the presentation. A manifestation of the subjective nature of judicial procedures will be brought to light as a result of the interplay between these particular components. The interaction that takes place between these components will determine the outcome of this. In the context of several narratives that are in disagreement with one another, this interaction offers light on the difficulties that are inherent in determining the truth. These difficulties are brought to light as a consequence of the engagement that took place. In addition, the challenges that are already present in the process of understanding the truth are pushed to the forefront of attention. The two problems that are brought to light as a result of the interaction that takes place between these specific components are brought to light as a consequence of the interaction that takes place between them. After everything is said and done, the circumstances are the ones that serve as a sobering reminder of the intricacies of human behavior and the enormous influence that interpersonal interactions can have on persons who are engaged in them on a daily basis. It is abundantly evident that this is the case as a direct result of the events that took place in the aftermath of the murder of Michael Redlick. The significance of this realization is one of the things that can be received from the incident that took place, and it is absolutely something that ought to be taken into consideration. It is essential to bear in mind that this realization is one of the other things that can be obtained from the event. We are the ones who are compelled to confront the unsettling realities that we are confronted with in relation to love, violence, and the unstable nature of the connections that bind us to our families. As a result of the fact that we are the ones who are obligated to face these facts, this particular circumstance has arisen. In light of the fact that we are required to address these facts, which is the reason why this has taken place, the events that have transpired are the result of this. As a tragic homage to the fact that legal systems have inherent limitations when it comes to addressing the complexities of human relationships, the tragic narrative of Michael Redlick's death is a painful tribute to the truth that legal institutions have limitations. Michael Redlick's killing has had a devastating impact on the numerous facets of justice, as well as the inherent limitations that are intrinsic to the institutions that make up the judicial system. This case is a witness to both of these characteristics, which is necessary in order to accomplish the purpose of the case, which is to provide a clear picture of the situation. Despite the fact that this is the case, it is of the highest importance to keep in mind that the conflict does not lack any restrictions within its definition. This is something that should be kept in mind consistently. It is something that should be done on a consistent basis, and that is with the intention of always keeping this in mind. Taking into consideration the results of this study, it is recommended that more investigation and debate be carried out on a wide range of subjects. Some of the issues that are discussed here include the challenges that are linked with the judicial system, as well as the issue of abuse that takes place within the household. When the results of the investigation that is currently being conducted are taken into consideration, this recommendation is provided. We would like to offer an invitation to you to join us in this quest while we are in the process of conducting an ongoing inquiry into tales that drive involvement in meaningful conversations on our channel. We would like to do this while this investigation is continuing. It is our sincere wish that you will accept our invitation. Our fervent hope is that you will accept the invitation that we have extended to you. We are expecting you to accept the invitation that we have extended to you with all of your heart. We are quite excited about this opportunity. In the event that you are interested in participating in this attempt alongside us, we would be overjoyed to have you by our side. Please come forward if you are interested in this opportunity. Please let us know if you are interested in participating in this opportunity. By cooperating with one another, we will be able to navigate the complexities of the human experience and work toward reaching a more comprehensive comprehension of the reality that is all around us. The process of working together will be the means by which this objective will be achieved. This objective will be accomplished through the process of working together, which will be the means by which it gets accomplished. Through the process of working together, this goal will be accomplished, and it will be accomplished through the process of working together. This will be the manner that this aim is reached. It will be possible for us to work together, which will make it possible for us to accomplish the goals that we have established for ourselves. We will have the opportunity to collaborate with one another. Due to the fact that we are able to collaborate with one another, there is a chance that we will be able to successfully complete your assignment. This objective will be accomplished via the process of working together, and it will be finished through the process of working together and working together several times until it is ultimately realized. In the event that this strategy is put into action, it is predicted that the goal of achieving this objective will be attained. Thank you for watching. I recommend our other crime videos.